All right, welcome back to another tutorial with Posh Easy Win. In the previous video, we went over one back files from the endpoint, but I kind of wanted to touch over on some stuff and kind of go over some things and do some additional analysis and show you some other ways that you can do some deep dive analysis on an endpoint using Posh Easy Win. So in this particular case, we have this suspect endpoint that may or may not have downloaded something suspicious, and we initially saw it over the wire and it looked a little bit something like this. Kind of go back real quick, and we see that there was some sort of PowerShell stager that was caught traversing over the network to a particular endpoint, and which is the 192.168.120.89. So let's go ahead and continue on where we left off. Now we know this particular IP is associated with Win10.04. So what we want to do is we want to kind of backtrack a little bit and gain some more situational awareness of who the users might be on this endpoint, who's logged on, who has a console session, things like that, who's active, who's not active. So let's go ahead and show that right now. We'll kind of step it out from here. So we have our endpoint selected, and let's go to accounts right here next to commands. So click on accounts, and let's search for accounts logged on via console currently. We'll kind of leave this time frame open right now, and we'll go ahead and select accounts logged on via console, and we see that our execute script greened up. We'll go ahead and see what we can find. All right, yes, and go ahead and let's get rid of some of these jobs we did earlier, and see accounts currently logged on via console. All right, let's go ahead and see what results we have. Let's go to grid view, and we can see that we have Terry has an active console session right now. So we have something that came over the wire. We have a user who's logged on. We know it's Terry, and maybe we want to gain some more understanding of their account, what their SID is, things like that. So go ahead and close this out. We know that we have Terry. Let's see what the details. All right, let's see the options for monitor jobs. Okay, so let's see if we can gain any more information about Terry. Now, if you want to pull accounts down from Active Directory, you simply just go to the Accounts tab right here, right click in the white space, import account data from Active Directory, and if you have proper credentials to communicate with the DC that may be on the domain controller, or excuse me, the DC, but Active Directory was more than likely on the domain controller, you can go ahead and issue this particular command via the Accounts tab to pull down the accounts that are currently in Active Directory. So we already done that, and we have Terry right here. We could see, see right here, we have their SID, last modified, and when the account was created. Let's see here, last logon date, and things like that. So we have our user, we have some information. Now let's go and do some file searches on this user's account on the endpoint, which the endpoint will be Win10.04. In most cases, if there's something malicious going on, 9 times out of 10, they downloaded something. So first place to check would be the downloads folder. You can do a directory listing and search their downloads folder, or if you think there are subfolders, you can recursively search 1 or 2 depths. But in this particular situation, we already have looked at Terry's downloads, and we want to see if we can look and use this feature right here, file search, look at this particular directory, and then also look to see if we can pull back any files that have these extensions. So we're going to go ahead, and you can look for file name or file hash. So if you have a hash you want to look for, you can definitely do that. We're going to be looking for files with these extensions in this directory on this endpoint. So go ahead and click File Search and Execute Script. Yes, and let's see. All right, we have results. Let's go ahead and grid view, and we can see updater.bat. Now we searched for the extension .bat, so we were able to pull that back. If there was anything that had .exe, we could pull that back as well and get a hit. Or if you just wanted to search this directory just all out, you could use a directory listing and maybe like a star on there to get all contents in that location. Now, something real interesting that you can do is if Windows Defender is on the endpoint and logging, then you can do a query search using Posh EasyWin to search for anything that Windows Defender may have hit on or detected. So essentially, you just go back to your Commands tab and then go to PowerShell scripts right here. And let's go ahead and expand that and look for Windows Defender malware detected. As you can see, the script kind of pops up in the tooltip right there. It shows you exactly what's going to be ran. So we can go ahead and select this particular script right here. And we have our endpoint. Let's go ahead and execute. Yes. And see what comes back. All right. So it looks like we have some information. Go ahead and do a grid view. And we can see we have our computer name. And let's scroll over. We have some detection IDs. We have some domain users who, at the time, or excuse me, computer right here, NT Authority System. And we have something right here. We don't have any information on the domain user, which is kind of weird. But we see right here, actually, that we have something interesting in the reg key location for a very good update. That's kind of weird. And also right here as well, we see some sort of PowerShell interaction with this particular registry path. So this may be of interest. This also may be of interest to us as well. Probably query that reg key location, but we're more or less focused on Terry at this time. And when you do reg key or get item path or excuse me, get child item or get item property for particular reg keys, you may not be able to actually do it by username. For instance, Terry, you may have to do it by Sid. So looks like we have a kind of a direction to go in. So go ahead and get rid of this. And let's go ahead and get a PS session on this endpoint and see if we can do some additional querying. Now, I did some poking around. I'll show you right here. I went and used the SID for this user to query this reg path right here. And I saw something interesting. So we were able to pull back looks like some base 64 from this debug in this registry path current version. So it looks to be like we have some persistence that may have been laid via the initial bat file that was downloaded and then kicked off. Very interesting. So we could do some decoding. You can use CyberChef. You can go up. I issued some commands earlier. You can use this particular query for converting base 64 back to plain text, and I pulled this down off the internet, which is pretty simple. So here was a particular base 64 contents of debug, and here you go. Kind of get that, and we see once we debug it, we have some clear text information. So definitely suspect at this point. Probably want to do maybe some quarantine of this host or deactivate their account. But for us right now, let's do this. Let's go ahead and say, okay, we kind of have a feeling that everything's pointing towards a compromise. So let's go ahead and do some visualization for us to keep track. And you can select your endpoint, highlight it, and then click on this icon right here. And let's go ahead and give it a nifty, you can do endpoint red, or you can go hacker. This one looks pretty cool. Let's choose this icon. So we have our little hacker icon right here, pretty nifty. And go back and change it again. And just for visualization tracking, kind of keep it red. So say, hey, look, this endpoint is infected. So infected, and update data. Do you want to pull data? So we can actually pull data from Active Directory to update this particular endpoint. And let's go, and so it's just op notes that we're keeping here on the fly for this endpoint. Or we can add some more notes to our notes tab right here to kind of keep everything tracked in an organized manner. So we were able to get account information from the endpoint, query specific user download folders, and I showed that in the last video, but also if you get hits on what you're looking for, you can actually get the file as well. You just click right here real quick. I'll show you. You did your file search, and you can click get file and select the file you want to retrieve. In this particular instance, it's the updater.bat. You click OK, and we'll pull that back. I showed that in the previous video. Also, let's see right here. If you want to add specific user commands for the future, they can be as simple as get process for a particular service running, or in this instance, we want to add the command that we used to get the contents of debug in current version, which gave us a 64-bit base 64 string that we were able to decode. So let's just copy that real quick, and we'll go ahead and add it down here in our custom command. Get rid of this backend stuff, and we'll do disable syntax verification because we know that this query will work. And I'll go ahead and add to tree view. As you can see here, we have our command we issued via our console. And if we want to save this and then use Posh from a GUI perspective to issue this command, or this particular command for this reg key location, we can do so. Let's go ahead and select our endpoint 110.04. We're going to issue our custom command to see what we get back. Let's go ahead and execute, and we should get results. There we go. All right, do grid view, and we see that we do have the contents of debug. Pretty nifty way to really flex this tool and keep track of everything and use it for the future. Yeah. So in the next video, we'll go into some additional analysis, maybe processes, any connections that may be reaching out to this suspect C2, and then we'll go into killing processes using Posh Easy Win. I hope you guys like this video. Don't forget to go to the GitHub page for Daniel Komnick's tool, and if you want feature requests or any comments or anything, his email's there. You can contact him. Go ahead and star his GitHub page and follow along. I'll see you guys in the next video. Take it easy.